Hello. So I am streaming from a different channel, I guess. I don't know. I did something wrong when I scheduled the live stream. I scheduled it via RTMP, and this is actually not that. So learning as I go. And that's actually what I'm doing right now. I'm kind of learning in public. I've been playing with this program called Ecamm, and it's been interesting, but it's quite the learning curve for me. So I'm pretty proud of myself. Look at this pretty picture I made in the back. Coming to you tonight for one of the old school Sunday love streams. And for those of you that weren't around the block with me back then, I started live streaming in 2017. I got like a handheld device for Christmas in 2016, and got right on mic to camera. Usually outside, I really adored just kind of being wherever I was, turning on the camera and having a conversation with you. That was, how long ago was that? 4 years? Oh my God, 4 years have gone by. So the Sunday love streams were fairly inconsistent, but the theme is there. It's Sunday. I love you, and so I'm here. And I'm learning this new thing, so you're going to see me sort of play around with this. Because I don't mind learning in public. I believe that life is practice, and trying to achieve perfection before you show up it's just not my thing. So here I am as I am today. February good Lord, what day of it is it? February 28th, 2021. Wow. What a year, huh? It's been a beautiful year so far. Not that anything has changed drastically outside of the COVID restrictions, but I just personally feel like I started the year with beautiful intentions. Had some ceremony and ritual around the Lunar New Year, and things have really been in a good flow since then. So here's to that continuing. I am preparing to record this month's podcast, and because spring is around the corner, there's lots of things in my mind and in my life related to growth. So I thought I'd share a little bit of that with you. And then I'm obviously here to take questions. If you are watching the replay of this, then feel free to just post a comment. I'll see that and then reply. And look at my dewy skin. It's super humid here in Texas right now. So my intention, so first I wanted to start with this whole thing about me learning and playing with new toys. It is not really because the way that I was live streaming in 2017 wasn't cool enough. It's just that I'm always on a learning edge, right? And this just happens to be the latest one. I actually started to play with this software and these sorts of tools right at the beginning of the pandemic, but obviously that was a longer learning curve than I anticipated. So we're almost a year in, and I'm finally coming out in public using the resources that are available, upgraded my setup. I still have my mobile setup, which I adore. I love to be able to record wherever I'm at. Freedom's a big deal for me. But I also have this static setup with the whole, I don't know, there's lots of bells and whistles. So hopefully it's doing its thing. It looks good to you. It sounds good to you. And at some point, hopefully these words will resonate with you. So what I had put in the introduction to the RMTP podcast, or whatever I created that wasn't the right thing, is that yearning is a part of our process. So it's not something that you should feel like is wrong. Moving progressively towards a goal is just something that we crave. And there were a few years ago, I was sitting out in my back porch, which I adore. Absolutely adore doing it on a daily basis. I'm not getting outside enough right now, even though my skin wouldn't tell you that because I do have a bit of sunburn. But I was sitting outside every day. It was probably springish because you don't sit outside in Texas in August unless you're in the shade. So I was sitting outside watching this plant of mine, and I noticed that it would turn its leaves towards the sun. And it just, I thought of that as I was considering the bones and the structure of this March podcast. Because we position ourselves for growth. We position ourselves naturally to be fed by what we need. We turn towards whatever our sun is. And I guess for me, what I'm saying is that part of my sun, part of what sort of draws me a certain way is learning, like this continuous improvement. When in reality, like I said, I don't know how much this has improved since 2017. I mean, you're free to look at past videos. There's a little bit of a archive back there, but you can sort them by date. Take a peek. Let me know. I'm open for feedback. But the biggest thing that I wanted to sort of show up and say to you is that you are not in a fixed state. I'm not in a fixed state. I'm feeling these same feelings of yearning. And, you know, there's this interesting tool on a website called, where's my phone? My phone is not here. It's charging. So there's this tool on this website called Know Me. Let me see if I can pull it up on my iPad right now. And I hope you can't hear my MacBook Pro. I actually have it behind a screen so that you can't hear it because its fan is going crazy. I can hear it. I'll listen to this a little bit afterwards and see if you can hear it in here too. Oh, darn it. There it is. It's a free online assessment. If you're done with assessments, ignore this part. Just listen to the narrative. If you're curious about assessments, then this is, if you Google Wheel of Life interactive assessment, it really only takes about 5 minutes. It's pretty interesting because it shows you different facets of your life in a wheel. You want me to do something cool? This is real learning live. I'm going to try to mirror my screen, and then I'm going to try to show you on this thing. So let's see if this works. Dun, 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 dun. Are you mirroring? Maybe it'll let me do this if I plug it in. No, let's see what it does. The wheel of death is spinning. Yeah, I won't try it for now. But at some point I'll be able to just because I feel like it, pull up a website and show it to you live on a side by side. That's a goal. So maybe in future live streams you'll see that. But this wheel of life shows different facets of your life, and you just kind of grade them on a scale of 1 to 10. So we, as a human being, are always sort of growing, striving towards something. And even if we hit a 10 in something, we might fall back. Like we're always in moving in some sort of direction. So you're actually moving towards growth, or, there's only one other way. Moving towards death. We're not static. I am facing this phase of my life really exploring my own personal spirituality and the development of that. And It is one of the lowest rated, even though I'm deeply spiritual and I feel like I have a full spiritual life in relation to everything. It's one of the categories that's just not as high on the scale. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. And that's what I want to say to you. Because you're yearning for something in some facet of your life, it does not mean that there's anything quote unquote wrong. Like that connotation is, if it's causing you discomfort, if it's causing you pain, if it's causing you suffering of some sort, maybe take a look at it a different way. Because we have an innate desire to grow. We have an innate desire to move forward. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the March podcast. It is this idea that we will continuously attempt to express our deepest self, that we'll continuously work at expressing the whole of us. At least you, my friends who are here, because this is something that you've chosen as a part of your lifestyle. Continuous growth, deepening relationships, deep, meaningful conversations, figuring out what matters to you, and then investing your time in alignment with that. Revisiting, reflecting, rewinding, and doing some analysis. Not to fix it, just to understand it maybe, or see it in a different way. And so that is why I came. Let's see if I have notes. None of these really. So that's the gist of tonight. I am going to play a tiny bit, switching to screens and see how they look live. All right, I didn't do that one right. Maybe I did that one right. Yes. This screen has, and it's locked, so I have to unlock it. Has this logo here that if I'm super careful and click on just right, it'll move. It's not doing that right now. And then this scene has a different logo. Let's see what this one has. Oh, it disappeared. So I think looking back at what I see here, I might put a pretty little border around this. But that's my live stream for tonight. It really was just a touch base. It's fairly interesting to me that I started doing this in a different way 4 whole years ago. My entire journey is probably 7 years now, because I started with the podcast in 2014. 3 years into that, I decided to branch out into video. And that has kept me pretty busy, between showing up for you here like this, sharing on my podcast, and then connecting with the community within university. It's really a full plate, especially right now since I don't have a team. I have an ad hoc team when I need them, but my phase, I think like everyone during COVID has been to sort of peel away at what just kept you busy. And hopefully, there's been some reflection and some shifts for you during COVID that you have felt have been insightful and have, streamlined your way of being a bit. That's what's happening with me. I am focusing, there's an 80-20 principle that says 20% of your effort results in 80% of your returns. And so I'm just trying to kind of slice off that 80% that really doesn't get the returns that I'm looking for anyway. That probably doesn't have the community, the interaction, the meaning that I feel is necessary for me to do something, for me to commit to something and invest in it. Obviously, this is because since 2017, I've been showing up live to have a conversation with you, or to be here when you're ready to have a conversation on the replay. So just for a quick rewind, this is really an attempt for me to show up in public, showing off what I've learned, these cool little tools, recognizing that there's still so much more for me to figure out. But it's a pretty good step. And then second, because I'm preparing for the March recordings, and there's been this theme of growth and I guess it happens like I'm very in tune with the seasons, and spring is coming up. So we might look like we're revisiting the exact same thing over and over again, but I like to point to, you can't see it because of the bokeh here, right there. That is the actual seashell that I found on the beach. And so if you can imagine, this is the path that I feel like we all take, and I know that I've taken this one personally. If you can see a seashell, maybe a conch seashell about this big, when you look at it from the top, it just looks like it's going in circles. But if you look at it from the side, or if you were able to carve it, you'd see that those circles were deepening and deepening and deepening. So I sense that I revisit this idea of growth seasonally, and that's what's happening. It's spring. It's time to sort of notice what's coming up from the ground. Trust that you've grown roots underground with things that you haven't seen, things that maybe you've seeded, that you've been working towards daily. They will sprout in their due time. Everything has its own timing. I think that they say that bamboo doesn't shoot up from the ground the first 7 years or 9 years, something like ridiculously long. And then all of a sudden, whoosh, it has this massive amount of growth. So time does not align with growth incrementally in the same way. You can have big jumps and then small, tiny sort of incremental steps. I said to someone earlier today, because they were looking at the vision that they had set a few years from now, and it's coming closer. And I completely believe that vision will come to fruition, because the growth that happens isn't, it's not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's more like 1, 2, 3, 9, 34. We grow in sort of leaps lots of times. So if you are in a space where you think, I'm really not making progress, or I'm not going to get to the thing that I want to get to in time, just know that time and growth work differently than the calendar and that the day does. But if you're moving towards, if you know what you really want, you've set those priorities, and you're investing your attention in what matters most, it will unfold. It will unfold. And if it's off a little bit, doesn't mean you failed. It just means that you're continuously growing towards it. So that's that's the gist of today. If you are watching the replay, and you have a comment or you have a question, I'll see those later. And for now, I just want to invite you to say hello if you see this. That's it. Have a great week. If you see this during the, whatever time of the day you see this. So it's interesting. about recording is that you can see it at whatever time of the day, whatever season of the year you're in. Like, if you bumped into this, maybe this was hopefully this said something that stirred your heart, that helped you, that inspired you, that motivated you a bit. And I'll say goodbye.